Hello, welcome back to NA Turbo. So this is part 2 of the carb rebuild on the Hillman. So if you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link to it in the description anyway. But last time we came, we were waiting for the diaphragm to come for the carb, which Ryan now has.
Yep.
So I'll hand over to him and we'll start fitting.
Yep. So found it off of eBay. Just a little company up in somewhere in England that just do some random Solex parts, and they had the right little diaphragm, new spring and gaskets in stock. I think it was like 10, 12 quid, something like that.
Okay.
So we can take that off, get rid of the old one that is as petrified as anything.
Yeah.
Fit that back in, screw it back together, and then it will be start fitting it back on the car. So we'll pull this off. We'll show how crispy it is when we get it off.
Yeah.
But we'll swap that, then this carb's ready to go straight back on the car. We can put the gaskets back on, hook the fuel lines back up, and get ready to start it, see how the adjustment is at the minute, and then we'll get the gas tester out once it's warmed up.
Yeah.
And tweak the carb, just try and get it running at around 3.5% CO. And then from there, it should be good to go.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll start getting this apart and come back to us once we've got all the screws out and everything, and we'll just update you with the next stage. Catch us in a bit. Right, so you're back with us. We've actually got the plate off the carb, and I'll just zoom in. So this is a diaphragm Ryan's actually replacing, and if he pokes it, it's as hard and as petrified as anything. And that should actually move freely up and down. So we've got the new one, which is here.
So, as you see, very nice and pliable, rather than as hard as a complete rock. And
yeah,
that spring sits this side of it, because when it's actuating up and down, the spring's supposed to return it to its stop position, but that spring's doing absolutely nothing because it is completely and utterly rock solid.
And you've got a new one of those, haven't you?
Yeah,
in
the kit comes with a new spring and the 2 gaskets that go either side of it. So we'll dig the remains of this one out.
Yeah.
Clean up whatever's behind it, and then put the new one back in, put it back together, and we should have function back to this diaphragm that's not long.
Brilliant. Well, come back to us once we've got that fitted, and we'll show you the next stage. Right, so we're back. Ryan's got the diaphragm in and the new gaskets on the carb, and I think he's got the old one.
Yeah, and that one is completely...
Oh, you can't get it to move just.
Yeah, you can see all the splits and perishes in it, but that is properly junk.
Foobarred, I think the term is. So we'll just go ahead and button up the casting now back on the carb, and then you can join us once we've got it fitted back on, ready for tuning up. So you'll join us back under the bonnet, and very spacious bonnet of the Hillman. So we'll just watch Ryan fitting it back to the car now. So we just had some rag covering up the port, I think, as we said before, so we didn't get any rubbish in it. You've got new gaskets on there as well, haven't you?
They were replaced not very long ago, so
yeah,
it should be okay for the time being.
We'll just take you down into the action. It seems fairly easy to sort of fit it back to the actual car, doesn't it?
It's only 2 bolts. One of the studs is fairly short because it looks like someone sheared it off at some point.
Ah, okay.
But it does just about have enough threads left on it.
Just to nip it up. Because if this is not seated properly, can you then get air leaks into the fuel?
We just get air leaks and it weakens the mixture.
Yeah.
It does really need the manifold changing. It's all the stud replacing, but the chances of getting the stud out the hole is probably quite slim to nothing.
Would you have to replace the manifold, or could you re-tap it?
It's probably just easier to replace the manifold because I've got another manifold over on the spare engine.
Oh yeah, if I just pan, oops, up and out, excuse the engine crane, but there is the spare engine that this carb originally came off, is that right?
Yeah.
So bring you back in. He's literally just bolting it back up now, and then is it fuel lines and...
Yeah, put the fuel line back on.
The accelerator cable.
Yeah, accelerator cable, choke cable. cart.
So for anybody thinking that working on carbs is difficult, what would you say?
Depends on the cart.
Ah, okay.
Some are a lot more annoying than others.
Yeah.
It's not something that's beyond the realms of possibility for anybody to do. It's fairly simple to learn, but tuning them's quite an art form. You can get by tuning them.
Yeah.
But ideally, a lot of the time, if you're doing lots of stuff, it should be like they roll in road test them to get them perfect, but really 98% of the time you can get them nice and road drivable without real too much issue.
And is that just using the CO tester and then just by ear, basically?
Yeah, the CO tester is the thing that's really important. That if anybody has got a classic car, they should always get one, because they're not expensive. I think that one was about 50 quid, something like that. Yeah, it's not the most accurate thing in the world.
You do see them floating around on eBay used as well, don't you?
Yeah,
so
I mean, they're getting harder to find because they don't. Just make sure the choke's all the way in. So
yeah,
they're getting harder to find because obviously nowadays you can't really. They're not much use to anyone on a modern car. But
no. Right, so while we finish buttoning it up, just so you're just not watching us fiddle around on the bonnet, come back to us once it's all buttoned up, and then we'll start the process of tuning it. Or should I say, right, will. So you join us back again when the carb's refitted. It will take some cranking to get fuel back into the float bowls and everything. Ryan's just gone to get the very important close peg. For any of you that know British Leyland cars, they are a very important addition to a choke cable. So he's just gone to get that, and hopefully we'll hear the beast crank and fire into life. Hopefully it won't deafen you. But here we go. Got a lot of cranking to do. Get the fuel back up to the carb again as well. Fill all the bowls. There we go. Oh, she had life briefly.
love a not pre-engaged start.
Come on, old girl. Oh, bit of a backfire. Nearly, she wants to live. Hey! Nearly. And she lives. Hopefully you're not getting too much noise. Oh! Oh, there you go. She's idled. So, don't think there's any leaks or anything, is there?
Doesn't appear to be chucking fuel out the bottom, which is fine.
So I think we can say that's a win. So I'll leave you there, and what we'll do is get the gas tester and everything set up and come back to us and we'll start tuning her up. But sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Let it warm up. It is bloody cold today.
It is, yeah, breath freezing today. But yeah, join us again in a little while and see us tuning her. So welcome back. So we've just been fiddling around. Now we've got the car back on, and I'll let Ryan explain to you what we've had to do.
Yeah, so in the brief clip we showed when it first started, is it ran on 4 cylinders when it was idle okay, but as soon as you touched the throttle it was dropping out.
Yeah.
And it was coughing, sputtering, firing, backfiring. Now this engine is rather unknown anyway. From what I know, originally this engine was C-solid.
Yeah.
And it's been 2 degrees apart and unseized and made to work. And it does have decent compression, and I know someone's been in it. I have no idea how far because I have no history of it, just word of mouth. So this engine does like to foul its plugs.
Yeah.
It oil coats its plugs every now and again. So took the plugs out, yeah, they were oil fouled, cleaned them up, and it still ran rough. So popped the distributor cap off on it, and this is still running a point system.
Yeah.
So if I pop the cap off.
Come down in.
So that is your points setup on this car. So you have, I'll be careful because the battery's on and I don't want to shock myself. But so back here, this silver canister is your condenser.
Yeah.
And these are your points here. So as the engine rotates round on the cam in there, the points open and close, and that is what sends your signal to fire into the plugs.
Yeah.
For each signal and to the coil. I'm not 100% versed on points. It's been a long time since I messed around with them. People get afraid of them and that they don't work and that they're unreliable. And if they're left to sit, yes, they can. This is exactly what this one had done. Is it had fouled the points up and they'd corroded.
Yeah.
So it would run at idle. But as soon as you touch the throttle, it was dropping spark and it was hitting on 2, hitting on 3, 1, 3, and it would just be all over the place. A bad condenser can do similar things, can cause it to run weird, give you strange running issues.
Yeah.
Points are nothing to really be afraid of. If they're cleaned and adjusted, they'll work quite well. Yeah, they are slightly more unreliable than electronic ignition, but not much.
Because some people either go to electronic ignition or a points assisted one, don't they?
Yeah,
so.
And I don't blame people for that. They want. I had electronic ignition on a couple of my cars, and this may get it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you want to just get in it, jump in it, start it, and not have to mess around with adjusting points and what have you.
Yeah.
It can be a pain. Also, the quality of new points is awful in some respects, and then new old stock condensers can be dry and not any good either. So.
Yeah.
But this has been cleaned it up. Now it hits on 4 cylinders and a lot happier. So we'll cut back in a minute once it's warmed up and it's all happy.
Yep.
And we'll start sticking the tuning on it. And
tune her up.
now we can actually start doing the job we initially started to do before it decided it didn't want to run properly. But
this is the thing with old cars. But yeah, join us again in a second and we'll go continue with tuning. Right, you are back with us, folks, this time. This is actually take 2, believe it or not. So I do get things wrong, and we've just done sort of a whole take that I didn't kind of record. So, yeah. So, yeah, it does help if you press record on the camera that you're using, believe it or not. So, yeah, we're back at the back of the Hillman. I'll let Ryan tell you again what we've actually been doing.
So after the last clip of you showing us when we cleaned the points and it seemed to run better, that lasted for all of, what, 30 seconds?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. And then it was back to pretty much how it was before. So went back delving into the parts and potentially thought, well, maybe the condenser is bad and they can go bad because it's just a giant capacitor inside.
Yeah.
So if it goes dry or goes leaky, it can cause weird issues. And that was weird because it would sit at idle on 4 cylinders, but as soon as you sort of got the revs up, it was all over the place with missing and what have you.
Yeah.
So the spare engine over there,
yeah,
still has all its ignition components and everything still on it, but it's obviously it's older than probably me and you combined.
Yeah.
When these were last serviced. So for a laugh, took the condenser out of that engine to put into this one to see if it made any difference. It appears to have, but along the way we found evidence of this was a problem. I know the cause of it, but this is completely and utterly melted.
Slightly charcoaled.
Yeah, and someone has then reattached. There should be this wire should be here, but that shouldn't have that much solder on it, or be that. So this originally, before I got the car, the story that had happened was they believed it was positive earth.
Yeah.
Which I think if you go back the previous shape to this, pre-60 something, 60 maybe 62, 61, they were positive earth.
Yeah.
And they thought this one was hooked the battery up the wrong way round, which would be obviously on a modern car completely devastating. ECUs, everything would die. But on this, obviously, it doesn't have an ECU or anything. It just destroyed certain things around it. So one of the casualties, obviously, was the points would have melted shut.
Yeah.
And it obviously got so hot it melted all of this at the same time. The other one we know on this one was the horn wiring.
Yeah.
Because it's permanently earthed. And I think what happened was the switch was slightly dodgy. They put the battery on backwards. Someone's knocked the horn. And it's completely short-circuited the whole lot, and it melted the wire from the switch all the way up to the horn. Thankfully, it didn't harm the loom.
Yeah.
But it did that. It blew that up. It blew the dynamo up, and the regulator box for the dynamo.
Okay.
So they just died when it got backwards polarity. It didn't like that. And it probably fried a few other little bits and pieces. I think the fuel gauge might have been part of the problem.
Okay.
It's had some bits and pieces, but going back through it and sorting out the other problems, and obviously this is one of them, so we put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. That's like crispy charcoal now. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it lasts, a 100% earth. So we've put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it lasts, a 100% earth. So we've put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it lasts, a 100% earth. So we've put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it lasts, a 100% earth. So we've put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it lasts, a 100% earth. So we've put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it lasts, a 100% earth. So we've put the one out of that engine in it, because that one was clean and not melted like that. But it now appears to be, we'll see how long it I am going to order another set of. Obviously, these can be changed at the side of the roads.
Yeah.
They're cheap enough, and yes, they can be rubbish, but I'm going to grab a couple sets of these when it goes out.
Yeah.
Have a little toolkit in the boot so I can swap this out should it suddenly just die on me and I lose something like that.
Yeah.
Plugs, wires, stuff like that. Or you can keep in a little toolbox in the back.
Yeah.
All simple tools can be mended at the side of the road unless it's cataclysmic.
Yeah.
But now it's running.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and tune it.
Yeah.
So this is just a Gunson's gas tester.
Yeah.
It's properly old, this thing. It's probably mid-80s, something like that.
Looking at the price tag, it looks to me when they have proper price tags on things.
Les Smith, whoever they were.
Yeah.
Probably some motor factors. But you can still buy these. I believe they still make them.
Oh, okay.
Digital. The previous ones to these were an analog meter, little sweep gauge. These are digital, these ones. It's accurate enough for an MOT.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not your big all singing, all dancing proper machines. But for one of these, if you've got a car this old, even like the Rover or the Renault, that run a carb that you can adjust, having one of these is super handy. Keep it in the boot, keep it in your garage, whatever. It means come MOT time, come when you want to do a bit of tuning on the car, get the thing warm, stick this up, and it'll tell you your CO.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell you HCs or if it's burning oil or what have you, but obviously this thing we know is burning oil because you can see it.
Yeah.
But what we'll do with this is it's a fairly simple little thing.
Yeah.
So it's had a lot of use there. So.
Yeah, these are sort of key to tuning old cars with carbs, really.
Also, if you've got anything with more than one carb, even with one carb, really, you want a vacuum gauge to plumb into the vacuum because you want to set it ideally to be pulling the most vacuum. Is where it will run the best. But you want, like on that, you want a synchronizer which you can put in and it will tell you on a little gauge how much that carb is sucking.
So that's the balance between the two, is it?
Balancing too, especially on a V8, really important because obviously if this side is running really rich and that side is running really weak, it's trying to compensate and it will never run right.
Yeah.
But this is a little downdraft solo. It would still be useful. What's that on this? It would still be useful to use, but we don't have one for this, and it's kind of tunable by ear.
Yeah.
So this thing is super, super simple. It literally is your little main unit.
Yeah.
The arm, which appears to have fallen out. I'll go get it in a minute.
Yeah.
There is a little arm that goes on it, and you just connect these pipes up. I'll go find the arm.
And then essentially you just stick the probe up its exhaust pipe.
Yeah. Here it is. Fallen out of the box. So this is the little bit you shove up the exhaust. As you can tell, that was doing the Rover last, because that was all the tuning the Rover needed.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly sooty. So super simple to set up. Two little things. Out of the way. So your connections are here on the back.
Yeah.
So this might be handy if anyone ever has got one of these and it doesn't come with the instructions.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. So you have a little line that goes between. So you have a little line that goes between here and the very top port.
Yeah.
And then there's a drain line there, which is what that one is. So that's the little drain. So that goes between, just for the drain, water drain out. So this goes between your pulse water trap up and all this lot. So you just go like so. This hose has had to be replaced because the original disintegrated.
After all the use.
Yeah, and then simply enough, the probe goes into the centre one, out for the exhaust. And then the way you set it up, we don't need that anymore, is you stick it to the ground.
So is this to calibrate it now, is it?
You've got to calibrate it.
Yeah.
What it needs to be is this hose needs replacing at some point because it's getting a bit crispy.
Yeah.
But if it'll stay. So you just connect this two end to the battery.
Yeah. Let me sure if I can not fall over whilst doing this. So you just bring it round and connect it to the battery. Like so.
Like that. And then. So what it wants you to do is you've got to give it, I think you've got to give it about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Try and this hose is getting a bit on the hard side. So it needs to be in fresh air, ideally not with the thing running behind you because it'll
pick up on.
Yeah. So you just let it count
let it stabilise for a bit, and then you calibrate it, as it says here, to 2% on the gauge before use in regular air. So you just turn this dial to get it on 2%, and then what you do is leave it for a minute, see if it's gone up, tweak it down. It'll always fluctuate a little bit, because it's not the most accurate thing in the world, but leave it 2 or 3 minutes. If you're roughly around 2%, 1.8 to 2.2, it'll give you a rough idea. This is rough, but it's a hell of a lot of, it's super handy for anything, because it can tell you whether you're vastly too rich, whether it's too lean. We've had cars that, as you see, just sitting down now, it's tweaked itself back up to 3%.
Because is 2% what it says the natural air should be then?
I believe it's something like that. It's like this thing is, but it's got to be rough to rough. But the it's just what they want it tweaked to. So I'll just put it up a little bit because it's let it naturally stabilise, and I'll try and take it down. I'll leave it there for a minute. It's been in its box for a while, but yeah, it's trying to get it as close to 2%. I believe that's what they believe is natural air. But it's just super handy to have. It'll tell you if it's running rich. It'll tell you if it's running lean. We've had cars before that we've put it in before and it's gone to negative numbers. We had that on an old Bedford van. It had the wrong carb on it. It was the 2.2 slant. Slant 4. And they put the carb from a 1600 Sierra on it because they were the same carb, just jetted differently. And when we stuck this on it, because we started it and went, blimey, you can't even smell it. It was so clean. Usually you stand behind one of these things and you can smell it. And this thing, you stood behind it, and when it was clean, you couldn't smell it at all. Stuck it up in it, and I think it went to about minus 1.5%.
Which is also not good for the engine, I guess.
Completely. It was completely gutless, and it pinked itself to hell. So putting the right carburetor on it, suddenly you were actually able to tune it, because you could take the mixture screws as max on it, and it would barely hit 0. And then we've had cars before that have run up at like 12%, and it's so bad it stings your eyes to the point of you can barely see. But
it's coming down now,
but yeah, as it warms up a little bit, it'll let it tweak out. But we'll come back when it's all settled down, and we'll start the car up and shove this up, and we'll see where we're at.
So come back to us in a second. Right, we're back now. The gas test has settled itself, so if I can pan down, it's showing about 1.9 there at the minute, and we have it ready to go up the tailpipe. So first of all, start the car. I should have done a noise alert, but because this has actually got a form of cherry bomb on it. So there you go. So up she goes up the tailpipe, and then
just give it a few minutes to see how it's behaving. And it'll take it a little while to react, but we might have hit the nail almost on the head.
Because actually it looks like it's not moving above 2, is it? Oh, moved a little bit.
It looks like we're running about 2%. Actually,
it seems quite happy at that actually.
I'd ideally like 3.5% is what I would like to see.
Yeah, because it's at 2.1. So if we come back round to the front.
So what we'll do is.
And then.
It's running fairly well. We had a little play with it. But so down here, that is your mixture adjustment. In is rich and out is leaner on this one. So we take it in till it starts to bog. Right, so you hear the change in the engine there. It's now bogging a little. So that's too much fuel. So let's go to the back and have a look at the fuel.
I'll try and whip you around without making you feel too sick, but
according to this, nothing. But,
so do you have to give it a bit of a rev first? This exhaust does sound very good, by the way. So that she says it's gone down. If you believe that.
Give it a minute to recombobulate itself.
Okay.
If not, we'll. Because I don't believe that for 1 minute.
No, that doesn't seem quite right, does it?
Unless I'm thinking unless I'm going the wrong way, I may be leaning it out. I need to actually look up which way it is, but we'll play it later. Right. Anyway, we'll wind it back the other way.
So we'll go back round again. back in the engine bay.
So you hear the engine speed starts to slightly pick up.
Yeah.
So that's on a few more turns now, about a turn and a half out. We'll say that.
So we'll go back round. There is a lot of going back and forwards of the car, so at least you get your steps up if you're counting, that sort of thing.
I may pull it out and reset it and see if it...
yeah, because that doesn't seem quite right, does it? And
not an awfully accurate reading.
yeah. So we'll just let it recalibrate itself.
I don't believe that really for 1 minute. That's far too not. Obviously, these machines are a bit temperamental, hence why I say it's not the most accurate thing in the world. So we'll give it a second.
They are a bit sort of Heath Robinson kind of machine. So back up the tailpipe again.
It may be one of these days where this decides not to play ball.
Yeah. Which again, old equipment, it does happen.
Because in theory, if you stay here, if I raise the RPM, this should go lower.
Yeah.
In theory.
So we'll stay here and keep an eye on the values. So it's going a tiny bit lower. So that went down to 1.7.
Yeah, so that's what it should theoretically do.
Right. Although it seems to have dropped a bit more now to 1.6.
At the moment, I don't generally believe this.
Yeah, I think it's... and you get this with old equipment, the gauge is having a moment.
Some days most days it's decided to work. It's camera shy this time.
It's camera shy, it doesn't want to be on camera, obviously. So we'll just see if it's stabilised there. And your end comes off as well.
That is quite warm now. Judging by the smell of it.
Yeah, because you can smell it's more fuel-y now, can't you, in the air?
Well, it doesn't smell horrifically fuel-y.
Yeah.
I'm gonna smell ridiculous by the end of the time. It may be that this wanted a warm up. So we'll stick it back out in the open air for a bit.
Yeah.
But the principle on this anyway is because it smells quite nice, it doesn't smell...
No, it's not overly
Your eyes
fuel-y.
and your nose will tell you a lot.
Yeah.
If you're standing at the back of it and it overwhelmingly smells of fuel, it's far too rare.
Yeah.
If you get if it's too lean, it tends to be you can't smell it at all.
Yeah.
But that's not a thing. This smells fairly in between. But this, in theory, your eyes will also sting as well. As we over this was. When that was running like 6.5%.
Yeah.
Your eyes will stink as carbon monoxide.
And I can vouch for that. It made you cry.
It's poisoning you, so it's not. That shouldn't be the way you tune cars.
So yeah, health alert. Freddie Biddett says, it was in sort of a ventilated area, but yeah, take your own
Obviously,
risks.
Yeah, don't run a car in a garage for long periods of time with no ventilation.
No. So it does seem to be running quite well.
Seems to be running happily.
Yeah.
So even if we go no further and leave it, and we may take it for a drive.
Yeah.
At some point, and then re-stick that back up. I'm happy that that's a decent baseline.
Yeah.
It's picking up fine. It's not massively overfueling. There's not black smoke pouring out the back of it. So that I will say is probably running.
Yeah.
Roughly right. If it's too lean, we'll hear it.
Yeah.
It'll start to ping. It might also be flat as a pancake, and it might want a little bit more fuel in it. But now it's got all of its diaphragms working.
Yeah.
It may just run cleaner.
Yeah.
But obviously, cleaner for the environment is slightly better. And also, you don't want it belching out shit like black smoke.
No.
It's not helpful to anything. This burns enough oil as it is, so put too much fuel in it.
And it is MOT and exempt, but we still like things to be safe and B, not to do too much damage to the environment if you can help it.
This car's going to have a spate this year because it's going to be the first time it's actually been on the road.
Yeah.
Since at least '83. So it's going to be the time when
it's going to throw up some issues. Whether the engine lasts the summer, who knows. It needs a really good tune, a proper drive, proper getting out and actually being about, and having some load under it. So I'm not worried about little hits here and there, little flat spots, because when something's not been driven for so long, they don't like it, they sit and they just get gummy. The Renault is a classic case in point. Is sitting around it, you come back to it and they really don't like it. You've got to keep trying to use them a little bit.
But it's one of the reasons we don't, you know, have pristine classics, because, you know, certainly to me, there's no reason in having it as a museum piece. It doesn't do any good for the car, and you don't get the enjoyment out of it. So
they've got to be used, and they can give you plenty of enjoyment. I mean, there's occasionally gives you some butts and sparks, but partly that is mainly this exhaust, because it's a cobbled together mishmash of pieces. It's got a Capri 3-litre cherry bomb on the back. Because it was the cheapest piece of exhaust I could find, and there is absolutely nothing between the engine and here, because it did have a resonator in it, but that blew its internals out when I first started. So this is basically straight piped all the way to this, which has got glass pack in it, I believe.
And to be honest, it sounds quite nice, I think, but
it is quite fruity. I don't know what 70 mile an hour, or what 60 mile an hour is going to be like, because this is only a 4-speed, no overdrive.
Yeah, they're just going to give it one more try up the old exhaust, and like we say, if not, we're happy that it's
running well enough.
It's running well enough by ear.
So we'll see what it wants to do.
No pressure gas tester, no pressure.
I'm going to guess around 2%.
It's
2%
what it seems.
It's a little on the lean side for my liking.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be a little richer. But we'll start there.
And then go.
Drive and see what it's like under load. If it really likes 2%, it stays at 2%.
Yeah.
The only time it may show an issue is summer.
Yeah, when weather gets warmer.
If it's really hot, that is going to be one of the tests of this anyway, because I wholeheartedly think this thing is going to be too hot in the summer, because it's got a tiny little radiator and a tiny little and even in winter it runs up to temperature, and if you sit in traffic, I bet this thing's going to have some heating issues.
Yeah.
But if it is, it's a case of stick a electric fan on and keep it cool.
Yeah.
It might need a recoil radiator, but that's what this year's testing is going to be about. It's got to put some miles on it, because it's the only way you'll find out.
So yeah, hopefully you could come back and join us for some more excitement on the Hillman, but we're happy as it is now. So we'll say thanks for watching, and yeah, this is end of part 2. So if you do like what we're doing, do hit like and subscribe, and
we'll do some wiring up next.
Yeah.
This has got to be some wiring repairs and some bits and pieces to finish it off.
I think, was there an axle seal you were looking to do?
And check the brakes over, and then it's time for a drive.
Yeah, so and hopefully as my YouTubing gets better, you can come along with us for that. So thanks for watching, and join us again soon. Bye bye for now.